We're here with Sean Buino from Dad's Handyman Service. Sean, I've heard throwing everything out but the kitchen sink, but you actually brought in a kitchen sink for us today.
I brought the kitchen sink in. I'm going to show you how to install a faucet today. And it is going to be a little bit easier what we're doing here on the workbench than it is at home. And that's mostly because at home you're going to have to get underneath the cabinet, get behind the kitchen sink, and it's kind of tight back there.
To install a new faucet, Sean has pliers, locking pliers, plumber's tape, a plastic putty knife, and plumber's putty, along with a new faucet and 2 new supply lines. The first step here is so simple you might forget it. Turn off the water. Before you do anything, cut the water supply at the valve under the sink.
So we've got our faucet here.
Sure.
Okay. And you see how our water inlets for the faucet are going to line up with these holes right here.
Okay.
We're going to prep that.
We set aside the faucet base plate and nuts and then wrap the brass faucet threads with about 5 inches of Teflon plumber's tape. Once the faucet is prepped, it's onto the sink.
So the next step is to prepare some plumber's putty.
Okay.
To create a seal for this faucet. So this has the consistency of Play-Doh. It's a little harder, a little thicker, but go ahead and just take a small ball, like a ping pong sized ball worth of the plumber's putty, and just roll it up in your hand. It'll get easier to work with as you're rolling it up. And then go ahead, and just like in preschool, make a snake.
Make a snake.
Okay.
In order for the plumber's putty to make the best seal possible, we have to use the plastic putty knife to scrape off any old residue. Then we use the new putty snakes to form a boundary around the 3 holes for our new faucet and affix the base plate.
This is how it should look at home. You've got your plumber's putty with your base plate. We're ready to put the faucet in. So what I need you to have now, Ryan, are these 2 nuts.
Okay.
Okay? And the 2 nuts are going to get tightened onto these brass threads. Okay? So I'm going to place the faucet right over the base plate. And I'm going to press down.
Okay.
And put some pressure on it. And just go ahead and put those nuts on.
I tighten them by hand and Sean tightens them down with his locking pliers. It looks and is pretty easy on the workbench. But remember, all of this is a lot tougher when you're on your back underneath the sink.
So I want you to take the 1/2 inch side of the supply line and just thread it right onto the brass threads that you see coming out of the bottom of the sink now.
Okay.
Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and just hand tighten them as much as is comfortable.
Okay, there we go.
We're just going to tighten this down and make sure it's nice and secure.
The sprayer is installed basically the same way. We take some of the excess plumber's putty from the faucet to create the seal. Stick the sprayer through the hole and tighten the nut. The big difference here is the sprayer line goes directly into the faucet, while the faucet supplies connect to the supply valves that'll be sticking out of your wall under your sink.
This is the supply line that goes to the hot water. So you want to make sure you hook this up to the hot water supply valve.
Now, is there a difference between the hot water and the cold water supply valve, or just the H and the C?
Well, on your faucet, it's typically going to have an H and a C. Underneath the sink, it may not have any sort of marking on it at all. So the best way to know when replacing a faucet is if your hot water was on the left side of your old faucet, we're going to assume that the hot water is on the left side of the new faucet.
Okay.
So after you hand tighten it, you want to take a good wrench or pliers and make sure that it's tightened in place. And you don't want to be too aggressive, because the last thing you want to do is break the supply valve.
Yeah.
Next, we have to turn the supply valves back on. Sean makes clear to me that this has to be done very, very slowly to ease the water back through the pipes. Finally, you test the faucet and sprayer, and if there are no leaks, you can cross another DIY project off your list. This project was pretty easy in the Ram Truck workshop, but under a sink, it'll be a bit more difficult and will take you about an hour. It'll cost you $15 plus the cost of your faucet.